Hello everybody, welcome back to Screen Stars and welcome to my second Star Trek review. Today's review is Star Trek II The Wrath of Khan, which was released in 1982, directed by Nicholas Meyer, and all the original cast return, of course. Now, I said last week that I was going to do a review about once a week of all the Star Trek films, so naturally following on from Star Trek the Motion Picture is this film, Star Trek II The Wrath of Khan. Now, this film was considered, I suppose, a box office success. Now, even though it didn't make as much money as Star Trek the Motion Picture, it had a much reduced budget, so therefore it was more of a financial success, made more profit than the first film, Star Trek the Motion Picture. Gene Roddenberry was unfortunately given a bit of a backseat in this film. He wanted full creative control, and because apparently of his meddling in the Star Trek the Motion Picture, he was not allowed to have creative control and really given a backseat here in this film. And Harve Bennett, who was brought on to produce, and Nicholas Meyer were not Star Trek fans really. They had to do their own research and things like that, which I think really works for this film, because you've got fresh ideas, fresh pairs of eyes, more these creative people brought onto the process to bring new things, and it really does work. And for those of you who don't know what this film is about, I mean, come on now. This film focuses on Khan, who was originally a villain in the original TV show in an episode called Space Seed. Now, at the end of that episode, he was marooned on a planet with his crew by Kirk, because he tried to take over Kirk's ship, the Enterprise, and kill him. So in this film, we see Khan, who manages to get off this planet, this marooned planet, get hold of a starship, Federation starship, and decides he's going to go on the search for Kirk to try and take his vengeance out on Kirk, who he blames for the death of his wife. Kirk, however, is dealing with his own issues. He is he's still an admiral, and he is now training cadets basically on the Enterprise. That's his job now. He really misses being on the bridge of the Enterprise, so he heads out on a training mission on the Enterprise with all these new cadets. And while there, he gets a strange call from his ex that says someone's trying to take the Genesis device off her. He feels this is a bit odd. Starfleet send them to investigate, and in actual fact it is a trap by Khan, who has every intention of killing Kirk. Right, that's the basic premise of the film that we're talking about here. I'm sure anybody who's watching this review for the most part has seen Star Trek II The Wrath of Khan, so I'm not too worried about giving any spoilers away here. Now, for many Star Trek fans, myself included, this is probably regarded as the best Star Trek film. Now, I think that's up for debate depending on who you are. I personally think this and Star Trek IV are on par with each other as the best. Certainly for the original crew, there are a few other Star Trek films that I think are worthy films. And by that I'm talking about things like First Contact, and then obviously we're going on to the J.J. Abrams ones, and also The Undiscovered Country. I think every Star Trek film that has been put to screen for some reason or another have got redeeming qualities. Obviously some are less superior than others, and we're talking about Star Trek V here. But they all do have some redeeming qualities somewhere in the films. I don't think any of them have been shockingly bad. Now, I think the reason why this one is so popular is it simplified things. It made it a straight up adventure film this time. You've got space battles, you've got phasers being shot, and you've got a great villain here. Khan, I think, is one of the best villains that's ever been put to screen. For me, any villain or any good villain in a movie they have to not basically see themselves as the villain. They have to see that what they're doing is righteous and they're the good guy. And Khan absolutely thinks that. He thinks Kirk's the bad guy. After what he did, he thinks Kirk should have come back and checked on him and his crew, make sure they were alright, but he never did. So therefore he's lost his wife and everything as Khan, and he completely and utterly blames Kirk. So he feels vindicated by everything that he's doing. And that makes a great screen villain. And I think his choices here, Khan, all the Shakespearean quotes and all that kind of stuff, it just adds wonderful layers to this character, and I think it was brilliantly played by Ricardo Montalban, who initially couldn't figure out how to get into character because it had been so long since he played Khan, so he had to re-watch the episode of Space Seed quite a few times, apparently, just to get back into character and remember how to play Khan. Now obviously there are some there's certainly one hugely emotional scene in this film where, spoilers guys, Spock dies at the end of this film. Now I remember at the cinema going to see this with my dad and being very upset when Spock died at the end of this film, and I've always joked for many years that this is the only film that I've ever cried at. Certainly when I was younger it always puts a lump in my throat. It still does, to be honest, when you watch it. It's very, very emotional. Now obviously the impact of that has been reduced massively, obviously, because he comes back in Star Trek 3. My understanding is that Leonard Nimoy actually requested to die at the end of this film. He didn't want to make any more Star Trek films, but he enjoyed the filmmaking process so much that he asked if it could be written in at the end, you know, when he mind melts with McCoy, just to give him an option to potentially come back in future films, and thank goodness that they did that. And obviously it worked out a deal to direct Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, so that he could come back. So I think this is a great Star Trek film. There's some wonderful moments in it. William Shatner is full on Kirk mode when he screams Khan into his radio when Khan thinks he's got the better of him. It's always weird when you're looking at that in retrospect. It doesn't make any sense when he's screaming at Khan like that, because at that point Kirk knows that Spock's gonna beam him off when he's ready, because he tricks Khan. So why he screamed into that radio the way he did, it doesn't make a lot of sense when you look at it in retrospect, but hey ho. I digress a little bit, but Kirk's in full on, Shatner's in full on Kirk mode in this film. It's absolutely brilliant to see. Great dramatic moments, some great space battles, some great action, and definitely one of the best Star Trek films put to screen. So it's a 9 out of 10 for me. Wonderful Star Trek film, so look forward to next week my review for Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. So thanks for watching everybody, I hope you enjoyed this review. I'll see you back for more content on Screen Stars very, very soon.